5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! You have to listen to my calls, I beg you. 15 downhill, triple caution! Triple cautions! You're not concentrating, you have to listen. Can you please concentrate? Please, please, I beg you. Into double caution, jump! Double caution, jump! No! Not listening. Shut up. No, I'm just giving you advice. Don't tell me how to drive.
Hi guys, welcome back. Today we will be discussing waypoints. The types of waypoints, we really dig into what each waypoint does, validation radii of different waypoints, when you would use different waypoints. So this is definitely an in-depth look at waypoints. This is fully FIM spec waypoints, so we focus on the FIM side of it. Waypoint radii are adjustable in Rally Navigator. So event organizers might set their own radii for different waypoints. You can choose to put the open and validation radiuses on the roadbook and show it. That comes down to the organizer, but the Rally Navigator software has the ability to do that and to show you. So that's very handy and very nifty. So thank you, Rally Navigator, for the great work you guys are doing. So without further ado, if you guys have any questions, let me know. But we're going to jump into the types of waypoints, what each one does, and their validation radii, and when you would use it. So thanks for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe, give us a like and share. This would be great exercises for guys that's planning to go and do FIM rallies so that they understand the different waypoints. Thanks so much. Let's jump in. Roadbook screen that you would be confronted with when you're making a roadbook, and it's just, it helps us to show you better what the route looks like from the air. So if we jump right in, the first waypoint we will deal with here is the Waypoint Visible. A Waypoint Visible is always open and visible on the GPS. So that is a very good point to use for at the end of a liaison. So if you have a transit and you want the arrow on your GPS to point always towards where you need to be, then you would use a Waypoint Visible. So a Waypoint Visible is always open, and it has a validation radius of 200 meters. It's very rare that we will see a Waypoint Visible in a race or in a special scenario. This is a 200 meter radius, so you can see the outside is the open radius. In a case of a Waypoint Visible, it'll always be open, and then it'll validate 200 meters in. So then the next one we get is a Waypoint Precise. It's important to note that with a Waypoint Precise, you don't have any information. So on the organizer screen right here, this is what we see, but when you are racing, you will have no information about this. You will, so in other words, if we pull up the actual roadbook, then you'll see that tulip number 2 shows nothing. There's nothing there showing you or indicating that it's a waypoint. So that's very important to remember. You won't know that it is a Waypoint Precise. The next one, and this is the one that you will most probably be familiar with. So this was Visible, this is Precise, and then we come to the one that we all know so well, the Waypoint Masked. So Waypoint Mask is the most common in racing. It means that you will have no information about this waypoint until you're within the open radius. So the radii I used in this video are all prescribed by the FIM. Race organizers might choose to use smaller or bigger radii, but these radii are the prescribed ones in the FIM specs or in regulations. So a mask waypoint, you will not have information about the waypoint until you hit the open radius, which is this radius, which is 800 meters, and the validation radius to clear the waypoint is only 90 meters. This would be the most common that you get. Then moving on from that one, we have a control waypoint. A control waypoint is simply there to make sure that you do not cheat or that you do not take shortcuts. So if for instance, if the route made a big U, you would put a control waypoint in there. You will notice that the control waypoint has no valid open radius, it only has a validation radius. So you pass through it and it validates. You don't pass through it, you get a penalty. That is very important to know. You can read here on the side what it says, everything. I'll post this information as well. Then the big one we get is the Waypoint Navigation. Now the Waypoint Navigation has got a much larger validation radius, so open radius is also 800 meters, but the validation radius is 200 meters. What's important to note about this is that your penalty for missing a WPN is an hour. That is 4 times more than missing a WPM, and that is because the organizer puts these waypoints in tricky situations or places that it would be tricky to get the waypoint, or where they're going where the terrain is difficult. So it's very important to focus on a WPN if you ever see one, because you do not want to miss that. Then if we move up, the next one that we get is a Waypoint Safety. Now the organization can choose to use the Waypoint Safety in many different ways. A common and standard way you will see with this red block around here is when you use a triple caution. So you have to pass through a Waypoint Safety. If you do not, you get penalized. It's a missed waypoint. The standard is 1,000 meters, so kilometer open radius with a 30 meter validation radius. So you can see it's quite a small validation radius, and you will most commonly see these on triple cautions or areas that the organizer wants to make sure that you are safe, so it's a safety waypoint. Then we move on to the other one that we get a lot of questions about, the Waypoint Eclipse. Now obviously the Waypoint Eclipse basically is it's not always open, but it's close to the Waypoint Visible. And what the Eclipse does is it basically will open as soon as you validate the previous waypoint, or when you are within 1,000 meters of the waypoint. So this open radius is 1,000 meters. That validation radius is 90. However, because it is a WPE, once you have cleared or validated the safety waypoint, the waypoint for the WPE will open, which means you should technically, from this point, from the center of the WPS, you should have an arrow that takes you all the way to the WPE. That is why I put this one in here just as an example. You're going to go from here, this is going to open, and then your arrow won't open once you hit this waypoint. It will open once you clear that, because it is an eclipse. If it was a masked waypoint, it would only open on the radius, but it's not. So therefore an eclipse reacts differently than a masked waypoint. Then moving on from the eclipse, we're going to deal with the speed zone. So a speed zone pretty much works the same as a WPM, which means that it will have a radius that the waypoint will open, which is 1,000 meters, and then it will validate on 90. As soon as it validates, you're inside the speed zone. You have to go with the speed of 50 in this case. If you go more than 50, you will get penalized. The FZ is the finish of the zone. Now the FZ reacts a lot like a WPE. Once you open or validate the start of the speed zone, the FZ will open up and you will follow it and you'll validate it at 90 meters. So that's 90 meters. Moving on from that, we have a start of a special, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. So the start of a special works the same as a WPM as well. It will open within 1,000 meters and it will validate within 200 meters, and that is when your time starts. Your time will then run until you get to the finish of the special. I put in a checkpoint, a CP, a virtual checkpoint here for people so that we can discuss that as well. The virtual checkpoint, the CPs, are there and they act exactly the same as an eclipsed waypoint, right? Which means, technically, like we said before, the moment I clear my start, since this is the preceding waypoint, since the next waypoint is a checkpoint, which is similar to a WPE, I will have a arrow leading me all the way into the checkpoint. The open radius, if for some reason it doesn't open from the previous waypoint, is 1,000 meters. So that means if I miss the previous waypoint, if I miss the start, let's say I go around like this, then it will open within 1,000 meters, but the chances of you missing the start obviously is fairly small. Its validation radius is 90 meters, very important to notice that. It's a big difference from 200. And then the last one we'll deal with is the finish of the special. And the finish of the special opens after you validate the last waypoint. So the finish of the special almost acts like a visible waypoint, but only once you have validated the preceding or the last waypoint of the special. So if in this case, or as in this case, the checkpoint is my last waypoint, once the checkpoint is validated, irrespective of what the roadbook does, I will have an arrow pointing me to the end of the special. So it opens after validating the last waypoint. However, if I miss this checkpoint and I come around the side, it will open with an 800 meter radius and a 90 meter validation. So that's about it for the roadbooks or the types of waypoints that you get. Just to run through them very quickly again. This is part of our Unpacking Rally series.
We've got a visible waypoint that's always open, a precise waypoint where you will have no information about it, a masked waypoint which will only open when you're within the open radius and will validate, a control waypoint which has no open radius, only a validation radius, Waypoint Navigation which has a larger validation radius but also a larger or bigger penalty. Very important to remember. Organizers will put this in areas where it's quite tricky terrain, sand dunes, mountains, rocks. Then we've got the safety waypoint, which you have to pass through, most commonly seen at the triple cautions or when there's major dangers. Then we have the eclipsed waypoint. The eclipsed waypoint will open once the preceding waypoint has been validated. If the preceding waypoint was missed, it will open 1,000 meters with a 1,000 meter radius. Your start of the zone works as normal, like a WPM. Your FZ will open pretty much always once your DZ, your start of your zone, has validated. Your start of your zone your start of your special will work the same as your start of a zone, which means it's the same as with a mask waypoint. It will open in the open radius and it will validate in 200. A checkpoint behaves the same as a waypoint eclipse, which means once the preceding waypoint has been validated, the checkpoint will open, and then after the checkpoint, we've got the finish, which will open once the last waypoint of the special was validated, whether you're 1k away from the finish or 20k's away from the finish, unless you miss the preceding waypoint. I hope that you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.